Word Archived Series. War on the Ascension, Part 3. The House of Divinity. Simplistically speaking, the Ascension is the very definition of what the likeness of God is. The Ascension is also the supernatural ability that allows men to be like God, I repeat, to be like God and not be God. In addition, the supernatural isn't the invisible part of the universe, it is the part of the universe that can't be explained. This is the part that transcends the ordinary, the part that makes you rethink what you are seeing. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and when he was done, he saw that all which he had made was good. Among the created was the heavens, he made them, as well as their heavenly inhabitants. All of them were ranked in their respective hierarchy. On top of this hierarchy, God reigned supreme. On the other hand, the earth was a different story. It was a home that had the capacity to house biological life, and housing biological life it did. Unfortunately, it lacked a supervisor, an individual who was answerable to God concerning matters of the earth. In other words, the earth needed a supervisor, and this person had to be made of dust, had a relationship with it, or understood how it worked both spiritually and chemically. This was due to the fact that the earth was the home of all that was flesh. Tasking supernatural beings with such work wouldn't have solved the issue. In fact, it would have brought in more problems than solutions. The earth required a person who not only understood the works of the flesh, but also came from it, or dwelt there, and at the same time had the mindset of God, since he was to be answerable to him. God is so divine, too big, too powerful, and too massive both in knowledge and might. As such, those who seat in his presence, congregation, house or council must have the divinity part in them. This divinity nature makes one be likened to the circle that he or she is in. This divinity nature also qualifies the ordinary to seat in the presence of the Almighty. God reigns and judges in the council of the gods or Elohim. As such, if man is to present himself before them, he needs to be of their kind. So when God made man, he made him with a God component, the divine nature, the image which is visible, and the likeness which is invisible. This God component is briefly described in the book of Genesis 1:26-29. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image, in the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. The day man sinned, he obtained the nature of the flesh more than divinity. This meant that man had no part in the affairs of divinity, unless he took a trip to divinity. This journey is a transition which removes the sinful nature, and adds divinity in him. We humans are different from heavenly creatures. Those creatures have been exposed to divinity since the day they were created. This means that if we fall, we lose divinity, and to regain it, we go through the school of the Spirit over and over again, until our nature is changed. In other words, the Ascension is also a transition between the human nature and divinity. So, if man lost divinity the day he took on the nature of sin, and to regain it, he has to take a trip to divinity, a transition that transforms him. Does this mean that during this transition, we don't have the Ascension or likeness of God? Well, answer this: is a broken car still a car? The answer is yes. The state of a vehicle doesn't make the vehicle lose its nature of being a vehicle, unless if it was transformed into something else. Therefore, of course we humans who have accepted to take the trip to divinity have divinity with us, ascension or likeness of God. The only problem is that, for us, its capabilities are limited. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. When man disobeyed God, he wasn't just cast out of the beautiful garden, God hid himself from man. He removed his physical attendance from the sight of man. In other words, God closed the heavens from man, he blocked man from accessing the council of gods, a family likened to him. Now man had no place in the house of divinity. Please note this down: when you are dealing with God or anything outside man, divinity doesn't only mean holiness and pure. No, divinity also means the nature, DNA, what you were made from, or the house you come from. Divinity is also the same as a person's surname. The surname has nothing to do with your height, weight, likings and so on and so forth. It simply talks of the family where you are from. Hence, divinity can also be understood as the house or the surname of a person where they come from. The Bible speaks of the generations of heaven. There, heaven also refers to the totality of the heaven. The totality of heaven is the composition of heaven as a location, the system, or its culture, and inhabitants. When man lost his place before God, he was disowned by the divine heavenly family. The house of divinity removed him from their heritage. He was blocked from accessing any assets from the house of divinity. In simple terms, he became a wandering traveler. The things that once were under his domain became his rulers. Despite the situation, despite God hiding himself from man, he still cared about him. Thousands of years later, God came into the world in the human form. In a simple and humble human form, a son of the carpenter and the descendant of King David, his name was Jesus. Jesus came to rebuild the shattered connection between man and God. He was the physical manifestation of the transition, the ascension. The only true way, as the Bible perfectly and beautifully puts it, the way to the Father. This way, every person who was born through Adam's blood, was born a broken man, but the moment you accept Christ, publicly taking on the journey of ascending to the mountain of Elohim, the mountain of God, you are now qualified. You are now a man who carries the ascension in him, a man accepted by heaven to take part in heaven's customs. The Bible says that we are saved by the confession of our mouths, and changed into something different. We are qualified, we have ascended, we are higher creatures. We are no longer the kind of people we were before. The Bible speaks of a house. In this house, certain earthly and heavenly matters are discussed. And in the midst of this house, Elohim, or Yahweh, is seated. The Bible also describes him talking to his subjects concerning what should be done. Look, Elohim doesn't need any help or advice from anybody. This council or house is meant to simply give responsibilities, and a sense of entitlement to his subjects over creation. This house, or as it is called, the congregation and council of gods, is composed of beings who have divinity in them. This council is composed of both good and evil individuals. The kind of good and evil here is also different from the one you are thinking of. The purpose of the council of the gods is to oversee creation, the earth, as well as man. Here comes the old dragon, the simple but deceitful serpent, the devil, Satan. The title Satan biblically means the arch enemy of good. This individual does the opposite of what the council of the gods do. Many people have a misconception about the enemy. They think that he is after them because they have riches, power and many other things. However, this is wrong. What makes you be likened to Elohim is what he is after. He doesn't care about your beauty, wealth, fame or many other things. He doesn't care. He has brought war on the ascension. He has waged war against you because you are on a path to regaining your place in the house of divinity. He did the same thing with Jesus, but with him, he promised him what already belonged to Jesus. Imagine being sold the car that already belongs to you. That's what he did. The Bible speaks of beings called gods, divine in nature but became wicked. This group is different from demons, evil, unclean spirits and fallen angels. These gods were part of the council of the gods, the house of divinity. These gods were tasked with the responsibility of man and the earth, and also the responsibility of different territories of the earth when God scattered the population of earth. Genesis 11 has the story. These individuals were not evil, they became bad guys when they began judging, or overseeing, in a wicked way. I will make a series or an episode concerning them in the future. If not, you can check out the book titled, Expedition Elohim, which will be available soon. The book has a few chapters dedicated to them. These chapters explain their roles, territories, what caused them to become wicked, and where they are now. The gods of the Bible were part of the council of the gods, part of the house of divinity, ruled by Yahweh. And their works were based on what Yahweh wished, until they became selfish and wicked. Seeing this wickedness, Yahweh pronounced a judgment against them. In fact, Yahweh never called them gods or his sons, he called them princes. They took their territorial power and misused it, and pleasure in being called gods by humans. No one should be called Elohim except for Yahweh, and those he sees worthy to be addressed by the title. These engravings, stories, songs or idols we see throughout the whole world, they are them, inspired or dedicated to them. So, what does the council of the gods, man and the enemy of good have in common? Well, the ascension is the answer. The enemy is called the arch enemy of good. What this simply means is that, he doesn't care about how good turns to evil. As long as good is overturned by evil, he is fine with it. The wicked gods judge the world wickedly, and the enemy enjoys the scenery. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. He saw these gods as his companions because they are both doomed for destruction. And remember, he is called the cunning, wise and the old serpent. This tells us that he doesn't need nuclear weapons to convince you, his wisdom is enough to change your mind. Right now, we are living in an environment surrounded by territorial rulers, watched by the invisible, and on top of all this, we have a cunning, wise, old and deceitful serpent. This is war waged not against food, water, freedom or other resources, but against the Ascension, against you. The funny part of life is that the whole universe is influenced by invisible systems. These systems are outside human control. And yet people think that we are safe. Are you sure you are right? Be wise, be alert, and be watchful. Please subscribe, like, comment and share. Your support will be highly appreciated.